Hello and welcome to haQ attaQ. My name is Jakob, I'm your host and you're watching a haQ attaQ episode. And in this episode, I'll be talking about solar cell chargers, USB chargers basically. I discovered how nice it is to have a solar panel and I'm hoping that you want one too. We have this nice radiation coming from the sun all the time during the summer. Why not collect it and use it when we're being creative? So I recently purchased a solar cell charger. It's got 3 USB ports on it and it's rated at 20 watts. Now all the measurements and pound and stuff was basically in metrics, so I'll display the metrics and the inches. And I've tried to be fairly accurate here with the conversion. So it's not that big. When it's folded, it's as big as an iPad Pro 11-inch basically. And it weighs slightly less than 2 pounds. So not that big, not too bulky and heavy to bring with you. It fits easily in a bag. And unfolded, it becomes much larger, of course. Now, the nice thing with this one is that it has mounting holes for ropes and stuff. So you can basically tie this onto a backpack and that's how they kind of sell it. You know, you walking around with this thing on your backpack while it's powering stuff. Well, I should really say charging stuff, not powering stuff, because the way you should be using this actually is by storing all that energy you're collecting from the sun into a USB battery or multiple USB batteries. Now, I'll be talking more about the charging aspect and actually using a solar panel, but first I just want to point out that it's very, very important that you keep the panels clean from any dust particles and things like that. So whenever you've used it and you want to fold it up, it says in my manual that you should wipe off the panel with a damp cloth, not wet, damp, because it also says that you should not get the panel wet because the panel is not waterproof. Now, a quick note here, this thing about keeping technology dry, it is very important. Not only a solar panel, but everything else. If I'm bringing a synth with me, I wouldn't want any water on there. And you might think like on a dry day, you know the weather's going to be clear. There's not going to be any water on it. But there's this one thing that a lot of people don't think about. I always bring lots of water with me. And what will happen is the cold water and the cold bottle will condensate the air around it and water droplets will form on the bottle. And if I'm carrying my stuff in a bag like this, where it's made out of fabric and it's not coated like my other bag is, well, that water is just gonna go straight through the bag. And so I make sure to put my stuff down into plastic bags inside my bag. And that way I'm sure that stuff will be kept clean. So think about that. Clean? I mean dry, of course. I paid about $50 for mine, slightly above $50. It was on sale, so I had like 16% off. Now, I've checked online on Amazon and there are many similar products to this one. Products I haven't checked myself, but I wanted to be able to provide you with some results, search results for these if you want to get something similar, because the one I got was from a Swedish store and they don't sell them outside of Sweden. At least I don't think they do. I haven't found them anywhere else. So for Swedes, you can find these still at Kjell & Company. Oh, and the reason you don't want scratches on your panels is because it makes them inefficient. It's the most common problem to why a solar panel might be giving out less energy over time because of the surface of the panel becoming rugged. Now, when I was out and doing my tests and also out actually producing music and recording stuff, I was using a USB battery I've been using for many, many years. It has a capacity of 12,000 milliamp hours and it actually lasts me like a whole day depending on what I bring with me. There's quite a lot of juice in there and it actually takes some time to recharge. Now, since it's a lithium battery, I always try to, not let the power completely run out of the battery pack because lithium batteries are sensitive. And if you get the power dropping too low, then many times it won't even allow you to charge because it's thinking that the cell is damaged. So when I think there's about 20 or 30% left, that's when I stop using it and I start recharging it again. I usually use one of my iPad adapters from Apple. They're also good for powering synthesizers and stuff. It usually takes me about 5 to 6 hours to charge the battery from about 20-30% up to full charge. Now, with the solar panel, it took longer. So I pretty much went out 3 days, 3 times, not in a row, but whenever the condition was right, and I just started charging the power pack with this solar cell charger. One of these days there were a little bit of clouds coming in between, but not for long, about 5 minutes or so. And if I calculate the time it took me to charge this battery to full capacity, it boils down to about 14 hours. 4 hours one day, 5 hours another, and 5 hours again another day. Yeah, 14 hours in almost perfect conditions. Now, there's a feel-good thing about this, because the next following days, whenever I went out, I was bringing this USB power pack with me, and I was pretty much powering all of my gear off solar power. Now, that really did feel very, very good. Charging with a solar cell charger is never going to be as perfect as it is when you're charging from a wall outlet. So that is something you need to think about. When testing out this thing in the shade to see how much power it would generate just for the fun of it, I actually had this instance where my iPhone was giving me an error message because iOS didn't think that it was connected to anything legit, simply because the power output was too low. Now, while charging this in perfect condition, when it is sunny outside, no clouds in the sky, it gets very hot too, and heat is something that you need to consider. It kind of made me fear a little bit for the phone and USB battery that I was using during my tests. So what I ended up doing was I just tried to place my phone and my USB battery in the shade to keep them cool. Because not only do they get hot from the sun, they also get hot when you charge them. You've probably already noticed this. If you've ever charged anything, stuff tends to get hot, and you don't want things to get too hot because they can break. Or even worse, lithium batteries, they kind of scare me a bit, and that's what you have in your phones and also in your USB batteries. So a good practice is to bring longer cables, and so you can find a way of putting the stuff you're charging in the shade. Right, so back to the actual power aspect. Now, I did mention earlier that this is a 20-watt solar panel. But what does it actually mean, this 20-watt thing? Well, it's actually quite a simple formula for that. So you can calculate the wattage output of something that gives off power, like a wall adapter or a solar cell in this case, if you know the current and also voltage. Now, voltage is marked by a V, and in this case it's 5 volts, and the current is usually marked in either amps or milliamps, MA or A. So 1 ampere is basically 1,000 milliamps, and milliamps is something you'll be seeing a lot if you're dealing with mobile music making, because a lot of the MIDI controllers and sound interfaces that we use, they're usually designed to work off a very low current to draw as little power as possible, but still being able to perform its task. Now, in this case, I know that this solar cell has a maximum current output of 4 amps. So 4 times 5 is 20, hence 20 watts. But it's not that straightforward actually, because you're only getting 20 watts out of this unit if it is, well, excellent conditions. You need a really clear sky, no clouds, and you also need full-on solar radiation on these cells. So yeah, a really sunny day basically. Now, one thing to note is that this thing has 3 USB slots, so you can charge 3 things at a time. And for individual slots, they can actually give out about up to 2 amps each, but you can't get 2 amps on each of them at the same time. Because remember, it's still only rated at 4 amps maximum for the entire unit. Okay, so continuing on the topic of charging. Now, I've already talked about how long it could take for me to recharge a USB battery, but I haven't actually talked about the amp output. You see, I wanted to do this simple test where I first take an iPhone and charge it with a regular 10-watt iPad adapter. Why am I using a 10-watt adapter instead of a 20-watt adapter? Well, think about it. I'm gonna use one port, and one port on the solar cell charger is 2 amps. And the voltage output is 5. 5 times 2 is 10, so 10 watts. So pretty much the same conditions. And it turns out that the phone takes about 1.4 amps when it charges. Now that I had that result, I wanted to go out and test it with the solar panel to see how many amps the phone would be able to grab from the USB output. Now, while I was doing this test, I realized something. I still had the panel lying down flat, and I did that from the beginning because I had the sun right above me. I didn't need to angle it. You know, it's very important that you direct the panel towards the sun so you can collect as much solar radiation as possible, of course. So since it was 4 in the day and the sun was lower on the sky, I tried to prop the solar panel up, only I forgot to film this part. And here's something that maybe you want to think about, because it would be nice to have a stand for the solar panel. This one that I bought doesn't deliver with a stand. I'm probably gonna have to make something of my own. When I make my own, I'll include that bit into a future video. So stay tuned for more parts in the outdoors series that I'm making. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Back to the charging. So if we look at the results, we can see that it's now pulling 750 milliamps. That's half of what we're getting from the adapter back home. So this also explains why it took me so long to recharge the USB battery. Double the amount of time. I mean, we're getting half of the current of what we're getting from an adapter at home. And here we reach a point where I feel a bit uncomfortable because I don't know what to say about this. I know too little about solar panel technology in order to know exactly what's going on. I'm guessing that maybe the sky wasn't as clear as I'm thinking. Moist is very good at blocking sun rays, so that could have been a thing. It looks clear, but it's not completely clear. Now I'm about to round this video off. I just want to highlight a test I did. You see, I did actually try to power stuff directly from the solar panel. Now it didn't work too well with my Synth Pro because it takes more energy to run. Managed to get up and running, but it shut off very quickly. All it took was one cloud, so yeah, never do that. But I did go and try out powering my pocket operator with it. And I actually sat for half an hour, played around with my pocket operator, powered directly from my solar panel. That was a very fun experience, and I only packed up because I was feeling hungry and needed to go home to cook. Now, what's fun also here is how I'm actually getting the power into the pocket operator. You see, I've backed this little project called Revolt. It's a project started by the people over at MyVolts, the same people who also did that Kickstarter-backed project called Ripcord. I backed that project too. As a backer, I'm very happy with what they did with the product, and I loved how they were running the Kickstarter project. It's a good case of how you should run it. Even though they were a bit late with the delivery, they were very good at updating the people, and it never felt like they were running away with anything. Well, when I saw the Revolts project, I wanted to back that too. It's basically something that replaces batteries. And I actually did this entire live stream in where I talked about the kind of waste I have at home here. Waste that I collected in a very short period of time, consisting of just AA batteries and AAA batteries from my pocket operators and various synths that I have, and how I don't like that. So this is why I wanted to back the Revolts project. Well, here I am out testing it with my pocket operator. So that's how I'm getting the power into it. These two yellow sticks here. So one of them basically provides the power and the other one works as a dummy battery where it just leads the power straight through. And I'm getting the power from the solar panel into the Revolts with a ripcord cable rated at 3 volts. I highly recommend the ripcord cable, especially the ripcord cable. They did a really good job on that. If you're looking for anything where you can get a USB power or power from a USB port ending up in a DC jack or DC connector, then have a look at the ripcord and go have a look at the Revolts. If you're using pocket operators, it might actually interest you. So I'm rounding off the video, and so lastly I want to ask you, of course, in the audience, if you have used solar panels. Do you use battery power packs? Are you out and about much? Maybe you're a trucker, maybe you own a caravan, maybe you're camping a lot. Whatever tips and tricks you might have, let us all know reading the comment section down there what you use. And yeah, that's what I love about this community. People are always trying to help out, so please keep doing that in my comment section. Now, if you liked the video, then why not drop a like? If you didn't like the video, then drop a dislike. If you want to help out, then you can share my videos, of course, commenting down below, what you thought about maybe the episode and about solar panels. And if you want to help out in a financial way, then why not check out my music? You can find me under the name Jakob haQ, spelled with a K, on iTunes, Spotify, Deezer, many places, Amazon Music, yeah, all over the place. Now, if you want to help out in any other financial ways, I also have a Patreon and I do have PayPal. And if you don't want to do any of that, then that's fine too. Now, as usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now, go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun, but do it safely. Don't get stupid like I did, because I was hit by a really bad heat stroke. Okay, took me days to get back from. And so keep yourself hydrated, watch those electrolytes, and keep yourself hydrated. Please take care of yourselves. Bye. You cannot hide it all. I'll break that firewall.
Warning.
I'm coming for you.